A while ago I dropped a podcast starting to answer the question of how dumpers felt when their dumpee text them. If you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you're very likely to wonder how your ex would feel if you were to reach out to them via text. Now, of course, there is no guaranteed way of being able to know and understand how your specific ex will feel if you were to do this, but I'm providing you with the next best thing, which is giving you honest, truthful answers that genuine dumpers have told me when I asked them that very question. So although I can't get into your ex's mind, what I'm doing in this mini-series is really getting to understand how dumpers genuinely feel when their dumpee texts them by asking them and then passing you on the information. In the first part of this mini-series, in the original podcast that I dropped, we spoke about dumper number one and how they felt when their dumpee texts them. If you've not listened to that yet, I suggest you check it out. It was very interesting and informative about how somebody can feel and reflect if that was to happen. But this is part two. This is part two of how dumpers felt when dumpee text them. And in part two, we're going to be speaking about the second dumper that I spoke to, the second dumper that I asked that very question to. And I'm going to, of course, protect their privacy, but I'm going to let you know, in essence, what they told me, how they felt, and what their thoughts were. So in this instance, we have a dumper who told me that when they received contact from their ex, they were genuinely surprised. Okay, so this person ended their relationship. This person was moving along their own path. And when they actually received the contact from their ex for dumpee, they were surprised, they were shocked. They honestly believed that when they ended the relationship, they would never hear from their dumpee again. And they was a little unsure whether this was something they should even have done. What I was told was this relationship was almost okay. It was almost plodding along at a pace that seemed acceptable to both people. But unfortunately for the dumper was just starting to lose romantic emotional attraction. The dumper was just starting to feel that this relationship wasn't quite giving them what they needed. From what I can gather, this doesn't seem to have been the worst relationship ever. It just seems to have been something which was somewhat mundane, and the dumper, in this instance, decided to end the relationship because they felt they could go on a different direction and feel more fulfilled. But when they ended the relationship, they did think that was it. They thought, you know what, I've dropped this bombshell, the relationship is over, my now ex is clearly heartbroken, I'm never going to hear from them again. And they were feeling somewhat bad during the breakup process and during the aftermath. Although they felt it was probably the best thing for them, they really truly didn't want to hurt their dumpee. But then we get to the stage of when their dumpee reached out. Now, from what I can understand, this happened fairly quickly. I believe that once the breakup had been settled, it was only a couple of weeks later that the dumpee reached out to their now dumper. But how did the dumper feel? What was the reaction during this situation? Well, from what I can understand, what I've been told, the dumper was somewhat relieved. Okay, so when the dumper received the text message from their dumpee, when they saw who it was from, when they realised their ex had reached out, they have told me their initial feeling was relieved and they started to like that feeling. Now, when I heard this, I thought, okay, so, are you now going to use this as an opportunity to reconnect? You've liked this feeling. You are relieved. You like what has happened. But what I was told was something which most dumpees listening to this right now really need to understand clearly. Because although at first it sounds good, they felt relieved and they liked it, what we must understand is the next part of what I was told. And I was told the dumper was feeling they was happy, they was relieved, they liked it because they knew their dumpee was there. So when I actually asked, but are you going to now reconnect? Are you now going to use this as an opportunity to get that relationship back on track? I was told, no, I'm in no hurry to do so, but I'm just happy that they are there. Now, what can we learn from this? Well, we can learn a lot of lessons. If you're a dumpee and you reach out to your ex, you might just be positioning them so that they feel they have a backup option. You do not want to be a backup option. You do not want to be somebody who is in a safe space for them. You need to live your life to the full. You need your ex to genuinely believe you may never reconnect, even if they were to reach out, because that uncertainty is what is more likely to rebuild romantic emotional attraction over time and increase the chance of them reaching out to you and almost trying to win you back. Because when we consider dumper number 2, and we can see that although they were relieved and that they liked it, what we must realise is that this was not getting them back together. All it meant was they knew their dumpee was there. They was able to push forward on their own journey, on their own path, living their own life, doing their own thing, with the knowledge that if things didn't work out, they could just go back to their ex-dumpee and warm them up. If you are a dumpee, you don't want your ex-dumper to feel that way. You don't want them to feel that they can have you whenever they want you. Unfortunately for this dumpee, that's exactly what the dumper now feels. Now, does this mean they'll never get back together? No, it doesn't. Because as this dumper moves forward throughout their journey, they might get to a stage where they realise they're not going to find anybody better, and they will go back to that connection. This might mean they get back together, but I would suggest this would have happened anyway. Because if we look at the bigger picture, a dumper will always at some stage have to reflect on the past, look themselves in the eye in the mirror, and really ask themselves the question, did I make the right decision? When a dumper goes through a single honeymoon period, they will be living their life as they want to live it, but eventually everything which was new feels old. Everything which at first felt exciting becomes mundane, just as this relationship did, which caused the initial breakup. And at that time, they will reflect, they'll self-reflect, and if they're feeling like their ex meant something more to them than these other potential people they may have been mixing with, this is when we're going to reach out. So I believe it's the same difference. This dumper perhaps would have got to this stage anyway to reach out. The only difference is if they get to that stage now and they reach out, they believe they've got their dumpee in their pocket. The power balance has not changed. You as a dumpee really need a power shift. You need to move the power from your ex to you, and you do that by being the type of person that they don't know that they can have. If you are a dumpee that your ex genuinely knows they can have at any moment, they're never going to shift that power towards you. They're going to keep it, and they're perhaps not going to treat you in the best way or the best light. You are a valuable person. You are the prize. Make your ex understand that by living your life and not giving them opportunity to think that you can just sit on the reserve bench. You are more than that. You're worth a lot more than being a plan B. So whether or not these two people get back together, I can't say. But what I can say is that via the dumpee, reaching out as they did, behaving in the way that they have so soon after the breakup, this has meant that the dumper is no longer feeling concerned that they are going to go away forever. Okay, they believe they've got them when they want them. And you never know, this might even extend the length of time they go on the single honeymoon period. They might be thinking, well, I'm in no rush. I'll live my life this way, that way, and the other. I'll try all of these options because I know I've got a backup option. I don't have to be worried about being alone because I know my ex is just round the corner and they will be mine when I want them. You do not want your dumper to feel this way. And the only way you can do that is moving forward on your own path, your own journey. If you need support going through the breakup process, if you need support using my version of a no contact rule, if you need support trying to move forward through difficult stages of breakup recovery, then you may want to speak with me one-on-one via my audio coaching service, more details of which can be found on my website, www.dateme.tips. I become your coach, I become your teammate, and we take this journey together. There is no 100% guaranteed way to get your ex back, but what I can say is that if you do get them back, you want the power to have shifted. You do not want to get back together in a way where you are the person who is undervalued, and hence a second breakup could be not far round the corner. If your ex doesn't respect you, how on earth can you expect to have a loving, fulfilled and balanced relationship? The best way to gain respect is to respect yourself and to live your life for you and not for them. So although dumper number 2 has said they felt relieved and they liked it when their ex Dumpee sent them a text, this is not the feeling that you really want to be going through your dumper's mind, because when we look into it deeply, we can understand that this isn't really for you. This isn't for that Dumpee either, but unfortunately they don't know it. You know, you need to live your life how you want to, not for them. This dumper in particular reached out to me because they want to push forward on their own path, as many dumpers do who send me contact. I will always try and get them to reflect and say, look, could you have resolved your former relationship? Could you try and find a solution to reconnect if your former partner really wants to do so? But I have to understand and respect their wishes. That if they don't feel they want to, this is what they're trying to do. And this particular person is in no rush to reconnect with their ex. Maybe it will happen, but right now they are looking for somebody new. Always remember that with or without your ex, you will have a positive future. And look out for my third podcast within this mini-series where we will speak about dumper number 3 and how they felt when their ex Dumpee text them. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.